Hello and welcome to GM Tips. This is Rick M. the GM here. Hope everybody's having a good week um, and everything. As you can see, look at that background. You know what book that is? Yes, it's a D&D 5e book with Aberon. I love it. So I put it up as my background saver on this. Now, I'm going to bring up the fantasy grounds. So if you guys can bear with me, I'm going to get all that up and I'm going to do the 5e background for everyone. So that'll be a lot of fun. Today's topic. So I'm going to call it enhancing your role playing skills. Now, I'm going to address this with both the DM, GM involved as well as the players because I think there is enhancing that we can do on both sides of the fence. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we start out, whether it was back with OD&D back in the day, or it's another gaming system. So it could be Numenera, it could be Savage Worlds, it can be 5e, which you guys are seeing here. It can be Pathfinder 1 or 2e. It can be Shadowrun. It can be Castles and Crusades. I can go down through the litany of different game systems that are out there. Open Legend RPG. It doesn't matter the system. Again, we're going to look at this kind of system agnostic, but again, I'm going to revolve it a little bit around the 5e and the Pathfinder, just because I can use examples from my game, and I want to use some of the players as great examples for the different topics I'm going to talk about on the enhanced play. So, what do I mean when I say enhancing your role play? What kind of things am I talking about? The first thing, and in my mind, the one of the most important things in role playing, whether it's an NPC, non-player character, or PC, player character, is immersing yourself in that character's persona and self-actualization. Again, I know I'm going big words here. Forgive me. I just want to make sure I have a good descriptive for it. So, what do I mean by that? It could be their voice when you're talking in a session, using their voice, their mannerisms, their gestures, the tone of voice, the orientation of the voice. And you're going to see what I mean by that when I say orientation. So there's several different things I could use an example for this. So we've got a brand new player in our Pathfinder campaign. I really enjoy having him in there. I'm glad we had him join us. We had lost a player and we were kind of debating, do we fill that role or do we leave it open for her? And he really lobbied hard to want to join us. And that's Maijin Tang on Twitter. And I just call him Tang. I like calling him Tang. It's just easy to do. He decided the player that or the character that he would be joining us with is a cross between a Naga, one parent, and a merfolk. He's predominantly merfolk, but he has some traits like the forked tongue, the teeth, the large teeth, the scales on his tail. They're more Naga-esque or snake-esque. So he's got an interesting character that he has joining us. And one of the things I love is how he emulates the voice with the almost snake-like quality of the voice. And one of his traits as a character is that he's not well spoken with others because of kind of his upbringing in this city of Talisantri underwater, which is mostly merfolk, aquatic elves, cicalia, which are the half octopus, half human, or humanoid shape, the sequoia, which are fish folk, the locatha. He's kind of an oddity, so he feels like an outcast, and he plays that to a really wonderful level. I use it as an example in saying when you develop your character, Don't be one-dimensional. We may start out that way as novice players, okay? And again, I understand you got to start somewhere. And I wasn't that great. When I was a novice, I didn't do the voices. I was awkward. I talked more as a player than the character. So I didn't get in persona a lot. And for me, that I think I was missing out on how much fun you can make your character by immersing yourself into them. So what that's going to take you to do is you got to sit down and decide what is their voice style? How do they talk? What intonations do they have? I don't want to overwhelm you. This is just something you'll learn as you go along and you start doing things. You can dress up. So cosplaying them. I love seeing players do that. I think it gets them into that persona, whether it's wearing tiefling horns, coloring your hair, wearing a wig, doing makeup, wearing an outfit, a times period outfit for whatever game you're playing. So Shadowrun, you may be wearing leather or some other type of armor type, like body armor type. Maybe it's a helmet. You can really get into this role, and it really enhances the experience and pulls your fellow players to do that as well. So, okay, so some maybe like, and let me give you some other examples of this play. Mark Hale, she has kind of a well-to-do accent that Adrestia 716 does. I love her voice. I love how she does her. I like her mannerisms. I like the drawbacks and the kind of insecurities and all the things that play in. Because what it does is it gives you a larger than life picture of Mark Hale. The same is true. You don't just have to do it up on a mic or a camera. You may not do that, or sitting in front of people. We've got a player, because of her internet connection, that's Akeisha Roberts. She types in, and you can see when she types, how she types, the words she chooses, the way she gets the playfulness to come across with her half-orc ranger, Shara. It is so neat to watch her become that character and the things she brings to the table when she does. She's got a loving relationship with one of the NPCs. And it comes across, and you feel it. You feel the playfulness, yet you feel the protectiveness, yet you feel the awkwardness of building the love. It is so cool to see that. And it gives such depth of dimension to the character. So when you're doing these things, it's going to mean you take the chance to really design your character. And I know a lot of you love that experience anyways. Either as a GM or as a player, you love designing that NPC or PC. And yet, so often we can play each character similar to the next because we as players don't take the time to become and immerse ourselves into that character. And I think we lose out a bit on that. We lose out on the fun and what it does when each player does that. For instance, Miffed Max, or Max, my buddy Max, he's been playing now for a while, switched over from 3.5 to Pathfinder, which we're playing right now. But he also does 5e. I love that each of his characters along the way has changed. He started out with a rogue. Then he went to he started out with Brother Stan, a cleric. Sorry, Max, I messed up the order. Brother Stan was kind of that little fiery, kind of brought up in a broken home because of what the Chelish Empire did, pirate, to a rogue in a very dark Gothic campaign, to then another rogue that was more the gift of BS, to now a catfolk sorcerer who likes to be the center of attention along with Mark Hale, who Adrestia 716 play. So they're always vying each other for the attention and for the attention of the other players. So you've got Aurora, played by Sean Ringrose, And Aurora switched from being just an inquisitor to a cleric of Pharasma. She started out as an inquisitor of Milani, the goddess of freedoms and independence, to the goddess of life and prophecy. Long story there, but I love how he rolls his eyes at Markale and just sometimes how she has to be that center of attention, yet he kind of sarcastically, playfully builds her up with his character Aurora. And she's interesting because she's a damn fear, and damn fear don't necessarily wear their emotions on their sleeves, but has become that nurturer. Then you've got Shara, the half orc, played by Keisha Roberts. And she's playful with Markale and often rolls her eyes or sticks out her tongue. And she does things like throw mud on her, which caused Markale to develop this squeal that I love. And as a GM, you can take those little idiosyncrasies and things that come with your players and take it to an over top fun level. So I have her scream attract different underwater creatures and encounters. They're not always negative, they're not always offensive, but they can go that way. They can be a bad experience because Markale doesn't even know she's doing it. She just screams. And so her first encounter brought Chules up. The latest one has brought along what I call a graboid, if you remember seeing Tremors. This is an underwater lamprey, kind of gargantuan creature that has that tremor sense like a graboid. And it's just greatness. Her latest one brought it up in the middle of the city of Talisantri. And it played out because of the role play of these two characters. So Markale's in the shop. She's buying this dress. She wants to be the center of attention. And I'm playing the NPC. And the NPC is kind of a RuPaul, over the top, female merfolk who is like, oh, darling, let me dress you. Oh, no, 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 no. No, that doesn't work with you. Let's highlight and enhance your features. So you can see I'm getting into the intonation of my voice and the gestures to make it fun for her. And so, up comes her ego. And so her drawback that she's taken as a player character as a negative is that she gets insecure when she's not the center of attention or perceived as that. And she has to roll when somebody is that much more charismatic that she just doesn't fall into a mopey sense in the background or just minimizes herself. So she just kind of fades away. Because Markale's bigger than life. She thinks she's leading this party. She thinks she's the face of this party. So this woman is building her up. Oh, darling, you're so beautiful. It brings out your features. The silver in this, it just highlights and enhances it. We must have this. You must wear this. And you can just see Markale blossom, blossom, blossom. And Adrestier is playing her that way. And it's like, Shara, look at me. Look at me. Don't I look beautiful in this? And it's greatness. I love how Adresti is doing this. And of course, there's playfulness and rolling the eyes of Shara. And yet she's trying to build her up. And then come in Aurora and Felix the cat and some of the other NPCs. And Sill's with the group. Sill kind of is ignoring her, going, yes, okay, yeah. And then Felix tries to give the compliment. Now, he has a hard time because he wants to be that center of attention too. And so he makes an offhand comment that normally most parties would take and go, oh my God, that went all over the top. No, I played it in a, oh wow, Markale, he did not react the way you wanted. In fact, it blows your mind that he even said that. And so she goes with it. And she's like, I can't believe he did that. And so she gets all small because she blows the roll. And this is where I would say with role play, don't let skill checks and initiatives and attack rolls, whether they're critical successes or failures, or you really fail it, stop your role play. It is a time you enhance it. So Markale's like, oh man, I was feeling so beautiful in that. And so the gal got just incensed who is running the shop. Ilana goes, how could you? Oh, how dare you, you little kitty. You She is gorgeous. She is an enchantment. Why are you making my subject, my model, feel like she is nothing? She is a goddess. And so back comes Mark Hale, even though she blew the roll by 10. Back comes Mark Hale. And then she's puffing around going, ooh, ooh, look, Shara. She says I'm beautiful. She says I'm a role model. What do you think, Aurora? And Aurora's just kind of rolling her eyes and placating her. And once again, Felix tries to offhand comment and compliment. And he says, well, at least you look better than a streetwalker. Oh, oh. So now we're outside when he says this. And Shar and Mark Hale loses her mind. I love Adrestia just built on this and goes, what? What do you mean? And she finally gets so frustrated, she goes to that scream. Remember what I said about that scream? That sonic scream attracts things, and it did. It brought on this lamprey-like creature. And it's so much fun because then all the players get into it. Oh my God, here goes Mark Hale. Oh no, oh no. And poor Felix is going, well, fine, I just won't compliment you next time. And it's just greatness. And the interactions. And see, this is when you are your character and you are acting them and you are being them in mannerisms. It builds the crescendo and it leads to these moments that are so memorable. And the party has talked about this for days, days after the session, how fun it is. And Mark Hale's scream, and Felix, and this, and that. And it was so great. Even Chunk the halfling is going, oh, Lord, I can't believe the cat said that. And he's trying to help Mark Hale feel a little better. And so are the NPCs, and they just don't know how to react to this. And it's so much fun. Another great example is when Tang and his character, Arcturus, come into play. Now, he's familiar with the city, but he's kind of the outcast, so he knows the underbelly of the city. And he sees the underbelly coming to mess with this surfacer party, i.e. the players. They haven't been introduced yet. So this goes into the introducing a new character. How do you do it? And he does such a great job. He says, Rick, I'm going to blend in with the wall. And he rolls so epic that he literally does and nobody noticed. They notice a slight movement, but they don't notice where. And he's watching this unfold, and he's watching the party handle Jurex, the Caecilia gang lord's lieutenant, and her ambush party that's supposed to bring the party to her. And watches Shara, the half-orc, react and attack and say, back off. And then the NPC Starlissa go, oh yeah, magic missiles, back off to this lieutenant. So he thinks, okay, I will introduce myself to the party with a bang. He comes flashing in with a rear attack and rips the throat out. So he rolls 2 natural 20s, 1 to hit and 1 to confirm. So I pull the card and it's like, wow, times 3 damage. He literally, with his damage of his bite, does almost 60 points of damage and rips the throat out of Jurix's lieutenant and spits the flesh to the ground. The party's like, whoa, who is this? And we got to get to know him. Now he's thinking, okay, now they've seen me. Oh, they're going to hate me. No, the party is glamming on him. And one of the NPCs says, you are so interesting. He doesn't know what to say. So in the lispy voice of the snake, he does it and even reacts to it. I have never been called this before. Interesting. And I love how he does the voice. And it's drawing the party in. And so Mark Hale jumps into the conversation. And in comes another player. And it builds the role play of others when you take the time to be more than one-dimensional. So you notice I've camped on this a little bit, but it's important. So it's literally, what am I when I immerse myself in this character? and how it's different. So, like I said with Max, he's gone from all these different characters, and none of them are exactly alike. Every one of them is totally unique. The same with Adrestia and Akeisha with their characters. Shara is different than her other characters. She did a Valkyrie and another one type character. Um, and so she had her winged horse and all these things. And so she's so much more the tank. Well, not so with Shara. Shara is much more the skill shooter, but she also has a real playful side. So she throws mud on Markale to get her going and have fun with her and poke fun. She goes with Lyra, her love, and bounces on, and not in a sexual way, just bouncing on the bed. So how do we deal with the love scenes? We call it bouncing on the bed because they literally are jumping up and down, having a good time, having a pillow fight on the bed. And I love what this does. It takes a kind of situation that could be awkward in the loviness and it makes it fun. And you just get off of Shara this playful protectiveness. And it's so much fun. But this goes to you, the players, and you, the GM, DM. How do you interact all these things and role play them? And the voices, the mannerisms, the mindset of that player, the background, they all play into the role play and enhance it. Which comes to my second part. When you're building your character, and I know a lot of you do this, write down what were the key defining moments for that player or that character growing up. What were they like? What was their household like? How were they raised? How did it affect them and give them different traits and characteristics? And now enhance them to their goals. This helps in developing how the character is going to respond and you, the player, play them. I love when people take flaws. Mark has done it with Chunk. Syl with Josh. Josh has really taken Syl and kind of given her that brooding tiefling monk aspect. She's lawful evil, but she's not tyrannical. She's lawful evil because she tries to hold to the laws and what she thinks is right, and she's willing to use any means to see justice done, including acts that are over the edge. And yet, if she doesn't do massive justice, she broods and goes into a shell because it frazzles her that she didn't do what she thought she was going to do. And I love that. I love that flaw. It makes her so real and full of life. But he took the time to make that flaw. Felix has flaws too, the cat folk sorcerer, or the tabaxi, if you guys want to take it to the D&D terms. It's so cool. And you can take flaws, and even though you got a roll or some negative effects, and really enhance it into the role play to where it doesn't make it detrimental, but it increases the challenge of who they are. Because nobody succeeds all the time. And how do they deal with that failure to launch? What do they do? How are their characters built? And so it gives so much more depth and dimension to your characters and your NPCs, DMGM, when you're doing that too. Put in the flaws, put in the quirks, put in all those things. The voice that goes with them. Oh, I can't believe I did this. Oh, what was I thinking? And that's the voice going on in the head, but you say it out loud to give the party knowing what's going on inside internally to that character. A monologue. Coolness. I love it because then the GM can play upon this some. And again, you're not trying to kill these characters, DMs, GMs. You're trying to take that situation and say, where do I take it to the next level? And you can do that if you choose to. So having that, building that. And again, people say, I don't like the systems with the skills and the checks. But see, those skill checks and those feats and those perks and those downsides can be so much more, and the roles aren't a bad thing. So say you're playing the Vampire the Requiem and you roll terribly on what you're trying to do to seduce, or you're trying to get to where you drain the blood and it doesn't go well. You can take that and build on it to take the arc in a fun direction of growth. And it goes to my third point. No character ever stays the same, nor should the players or how they role play the character. Think about it. In real life, we have flaws. We have those defining moments that come by that either we could grow from or we shrink from. And it makes us who we are. And it helps us to face those things. Just because Markeo reacted one way in the beginning of when she met the party doesn't mean she can't evolve to another set of issues she's dealing with in growth. And she has, as has Shara, a perfect example. When they went up against the Aboleth, and the Aboleth had captured her love, Lyra Heatherly, and a lot of the other colonists, and they came upon them and they defeated the Aboleth on Thuth. And they see the dejected faces of their friends behind these force walls that kept the air in underwater. And their PTSD. It brought out a side of Shara that was so tender and real and protective. So from that growth, she made sure her house was open, not just to Lyra, but to Starlissa, one of the NPCs they found, and to Gregorio, another Veritian one they found, and to others so they could heal. And she made sure each day they got together and brought out the talking and the healing and facilitated them facing what their PTSD had done. And then she vowed to never let this happen again. So she, along with the newly recruited to Pharasma, Aurora and Felix, start building up the defense forces for the colony so they can deal with different problems. One is dealing with the aboleths and the underwater menaces. The next was, what if we run into undead? We need to be prepared because they ran into some undead under there. And there had to be a force that was able to deal with that. And because they built that, they were able to take some NPCs with them when they did some further exploring, and they were prepared. What thoughtfulness! Shara in the beginning would never have done this, nor would have Aurora or Felix. But because of the circumstances and the challenges and the growth they had faced, it made them different people and think different. Do you do that with your characters? Say you're playing through the Storm King's Thunder, and as you know, it goes through sections if you've played it, and different parts. Is your character different from the experiences and the encounters and what they come up against and the things they've seen? Do you change and grow? Do you see an opportunity in one of the towns where there is say a shop that no longer is in repair and has been left? Do you ask the town mayor, hey, can we take over this establishment? How much? What can we do? I had some players do that in 3.5 in the Shackled City with Cauldron. One of my players came into town and he had a locksmith trade that he tried to make money on. I love that he picked a trade. So profession is not a bad thing when it comes to a skill. Whether it's in D&D, whether it's in Pathfinder, whether it's in Savage Worlds, having that profession to draw on gave the party the ability to become a part of the town. They were trying to figure out, how do I mesh in with Cauldron? Because they feared the outsiders. They kind of pushed them away. So he built locksmith shop to help people around the town with their locks. And oh, by the way, also saw on one of his scouting missions where they stopped a bad guy who was running the bathhouse. He asked the council if they could buy the bathhouse. And he turned it into a legitimate source of income, but also a base of operation for the party. And he found out underneath the bathhouse were secret tunnels that led to a base of operations, which they defeated the bad guys. So they took that as the party's base and began to build that into a secret lair. What a cool thing. But that only comes with the thought and the player growth and development of how can we integrate to the city, because we're not getting it and we're not getting the support from the city. So I'm going to evolve my character in a way that we can garner that. I spend a good amount of time on this for a reason. And again, I'm looking here, 30 minutes talking on this topic. I believe that the player and the GM, no matter what level you start at, whether it's beginner, novice, intermediate, expert, it doesn't matter. You have to grow in your role play. Not just with that character you're with, but every character you role play. And it doesn't have to be a hard chore. This is about opportunities to make this even more fun for you and the party, which is really what role play is about. Some people say, well, no, it's about the rules, or no, it's about completing a task. Okay, those are all elements, yes. But the role play is what sets it apart. It's what makes it so special. You can be anyone or anything pretty much in RPG, TTRPG, tabletop RPG. You can become what you want. Okay, so you start out wanting to be a superhero. So you think, I want to be Wolverine, I want to be Storm. Why? Why not be your own character with your own development and your own unique drawbacks and your own idiosyncrasies as well as strengths? And each of those formulates who you are and how you react. But you don't stay linear. You grow. And that's really the key. You grow. Utilize that. Hone your craft. Learn. Grow. It's like an actor that starts out at one level. Think about it. Those of you that have been acting, you start it with a bit part. And you're kind of monotone, or you're kind of one-dimensional. But the more things you're a part of, the more background you are, the more experiences you have, the better your character is. So night one, you play Tevia this way. Fiddler on the Roof. That's what I was in as for acting. But the third time you do Tevia, your Tevia then is different than the first time. That's because you've grown. You've learned. You've deepened what you can do with Tevia. It's the same way with your characters. And that's the neat part about this. It's why I love GMing. It's why I love GMing things. I can have a woman's voice with one character. I can have feminine aspects, but I also can have masculine. I can be Braun, the dwarf barbarian. There are so many things you can be. And each voice is different. The mannerisms are different. The goals are different. The personality's different. And it's so freaking cool because you get to do this and bring it to life. And then when you meet the interactions, that even evolves more when you're interacting with someone else. That is what makes role-playing come together. It's what makes successful parties that you watch on Twitch come together, like Critical Role. It's the meshing of those personalities and the characters and being those characters. And it's so freaking cool. None of you would play Grog the same way that Mr. Willingham has done that. None of you would play our favorite gnome the same way. Or the goblin. Again, I'm not throwing out the names, but you know who I'm talking about. That's the great part. They're all different, but because they role play and get into their characters, maybe different personalities and player styles come together like this and form a party that works well together. That comes from the role play. Thanks again. I appreciate so much your support. Rick M. the GM without a K on Twitter, or Rick the GM on Facebook. Look me up. Please add comments to these videos. Let me know your thoughts, what you want to see. Really, I do this for each of you. I want to make this special and evolve even the topics that I discuss. Even if I rehash a topic, it's going to be different because it's been 3 or 4 years since I've done it. Meaning I've got more experiences to draw from and more to give. Thank you again. Thank you for taking the time, and have a super week of role play.